Hello, everybody, and welcome. Leslie Bytel here, business coach and mentor. And I'm so excited for our show today. We have a great topic. I will say one that's very near and dear to my heart. Um, I am joined by Anthony. Anthony, you're going to have to say your last name for me.
Yeah, no problem. It's Krafasi.
Kripase. I was going to
Yeah,
guess, but it's better not to do that, right?
you're good.
So, anyway, welcome, Anthony. And Anthony comes from Rupa Health. And guys, I'm super, super excited to share with you this really amazing resource. Seriously, like, I'm just going to kick things off by saying, I mean, most of you know that I had my own private practice for many, many years and did quite a bit of work in the functional nutrition realm, right? And let me just kind of set the stage by saying it was so difficult, right, to order labs from all these different places. And it really, I found it to be very, very time consuming. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. So, what I'm super excited about today is to introduce really a solution to that big quagmire, right? And that is Rupa Health. So, really psyched to be able to share this with you. So, let me just kind of give you a quick rundown on what we're going to be talking about today, just so you're clear. So, the topic for today is growing your business with Rupa Health 101. And so, basically, we're going to be talking, Anthony and I are going to be talking about how to grow your revenue, how to grow your patient base and your practice by using Rupa Health for your laboratory testing. And they have just an amazing array of tests available. Specifically, let me kind of go through the bullet points. So, specifically, we're going to touch on how Rupa Health can do the following for your practice. Number one, increase patient compliance. Number two, really improve that patient experience. And number three, and I'm telling you, this one is so huge, how to streamline your practice efficiency and the profitability. So you're not running around like crazy ordering labs from all these different places. It's a really cool system that I'm really excited to share how this works. So anyway, so that is a little bit of background on what we're going to be doing today. So let's kick things off. Anthony, I'd love to know just a little bit about you and maybe a little bit about your background and how did you end up working for Rupa?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Leslie. It's such a pleasure. Super excited to talk about Rupa Health, how this can really impact you and your practice and your patients. So, a little bit about me. I have my doctorate in chiropractic medicine. I have done a couple different board certifications in clinical nutrition. And from day one of school and learning about nutritional biochemistry, I was hooked on the process of functional medicine and everything associated with it. So just very fascinated, love helping patients, love working with other practitioners as well to help them grow their practices and business. So that's just a little bit about me. And, after working with numerous different patients and seeing and ordering tests on my own as well, and just that labor intensive process that costs obviously a lot of both time and money to do, it was very clear that as soon as I found out about Rupa, wow, number one, I can't believe that I didn't think of this idea,
Right?
because absolutely genius and so needed.
Yeah.
But I realized that this is something that I really wanted to help practitioners do more with their practices as well. So that's a little bit about me and kind of why I started working with Rupa Health.
I love it. And it's funny that you say that about because I said the same thing like, oh, why didn't I think it's such a brilliant idea and it's so needed in the market? So it's funny. All right. So let's go ahead and jump in. So let me ask you just a little bit to kick things off. Just kind of give us an overview. How does the process of ordering labs, how does that impact practices, right? How does that impact the flow?
Absolutely. So if you have ever ordered a lab, which I'm sure many of you watching have ordered labs in your practice before, whether that is your standard basic panels, your chem panels, or your specialty or your functional or your integrative labs, however you want to term that, you're probably familiar with some of the different pain points associated with this, right? That includes things like dealing with multiple labs, so having to call each lab, coordinating different forms of payment with the patient and then the lab, coordinating things like phlebotomy, which can be an entire experience in and of itself. So there's a lot of little pieces when we're talking about the traditional way that labs are usually ordered. And then on top of that, we are looking at the patient experience. So there's a lot of little working pieces here, and these all require obviously a lot of time and administrative work involved. So with that being said, there's a simpler way, obviously, and that is obviously using a one-stop shop where you can order all of these things together. So that's essentially the process of lab ordering. It can be very labor intensive, and so we've tried to minimize that process down.
I love that. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier in our conversation, it really takes a lot of effort, right? Ordering labs from all different places. Like, I mean, having passwords for all these different labs, it's a lot. It really can be, I mean, it can really slow down the productivity in the practice because you spend so much time organizing all of this information. So how do practitioners order and manage their labs normally?
Yeah, so Leslie, if we go down the traditional patient experience with this, and obviously the practitioner's experience, normally a patient will go to their traditional doctor and they might run, basic blood tests, and the patient might get those drawn right there in house, or they might go to a local facility. And it's a pretty straightforward process, right? There's usually not a ton of labs being ordered, and then the actual process, because they can just stick out their arm and get a venipuncture there on the spot. Well, it's a pretty seamless issue there. There's not a lot of potential error that can occur. Well, when it comes down to these functional or specialty labs, there's a lot of potential human error, let's call it, operator error associated with these labs. Not only are they much more time consuming, there's a lot more steps in the process usually outside of just fasting. You might need to avoid eating a certain food or taking a certain supplement or medication before the lab, or it might need to be just a very specific collection. So aside from those aspects, we also have to coordinate where the patient's going to get the laboratory test drawn. So it's a little bit of a lengthier process than that traditional, you're at the doctor's office, get the lab done right now. So with that being said, you have to, it's the process takes a little longer. So it's in addition to sending the patient out and coordinating the phlebotomy location, and then obviously making sure things like the phlebotomist is drawing the correct test, that there weren't any issues in the actual draw process. Mm-hmm. So there's a few more steps involved that require the further overview of this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, what makes Rupa unique? And first of all, maybe we should clarify exactly what Rupa is for those, because there might be some people, some of our practitioners listening that aren't completely familiar with exactly what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rupa Health is essentially a one-stop shop for all of your functional and specialty laboratory testing. So we offer over 20 different specialty lab companies that you can choose from. There is a lot of different labs. And if you're a functional or integrative or a holistic type of practitioner, there's a very, very high chance that we have every single lab that you enjoy using on that platform. So it's a very easy place to just go and literally seamlessly order all of your different labs within just seconds. So most practitioners, once they start using Rupa Health, including myself, it was like, why would I ever go back to doing what I did before? Because it is so simple. It literally saves me hours and hours and hours in a week's time. So you also don't have to make multiple different accounts with all of these different lab companies. You just make one account with Rupa Health and you can order everything in one place. You can track your orders in one place. You can manage all your orders. It's a very, very easy process. So that's and to touch on that, there's obviously a lot of pieces in what I just mentioned, right? There's a lot of admin time involved. There's a lot of these other factors that really, again, just can eat up a lot of your patient time and also even potentially your marketing time, right? We want to make sure that this is as efficient and streamlined for your practice as possible so that you can go on and order with just a few clicks, quite literally, press submit, and you are done. We take care of the entire rest of the process. So that is essentially Rupa Health in a nutshell. Very, very needed service in this day and age, but I can walk you through the process really quick, Leslie.
Yeah,
if you...
I think that would be super helpful. Yes.
Yeah. So first and foremost, the cost for practitioners to use Rupa Health is completely free. So if Rupa Health charges in order to maintain the service is a 7% flat fee on all wholesale orders. So Rupa Health offers wholesale pricing to both practitioners and patient. But if you as the practitioner come on and would like to order one test for your patient or 10 tests for a particular patient, there's just a 7% service fee applied to either of those orders.
Okay.
If you order either option, what happens is 24 hours after you place that initial order for your patient will get a specialized email from Rupa Health confirming that that payment has been made, and payment has to be made before kits get shipped out to your patient. So that we obviously want to make sure into the patient compliance aspect of that, right? You don't want to ship kits out to your patient and then the kits sit for weeks and weeks and then the patients never complete that. Pretty common.
That's a problem too, right?
Absolutely. That can be a big problem, right? So we want to help with that compliance side with that. So we want to make sure that patients are following up, and obviously if patient is already paid for a test kit, there's a much more high likelihood that they are going to say, I have, however much money sitting there on the floor, let me get this test done. My symptoms are not going away. I'm not getting any better. I already paid for it. Let's get moving on it. So try to make that process a little bit easier. So as mentioned, 24 hours after you place that order, your patient will get an email from us declaring that your kit is being shipped out.
Nice.
Within 48 hours as well, so just 2 days, your patient will also get a personalized email going over the particular test that you as a practitioner ordered for your patient. So if you ordered a stool test, if you ordered a saliva test, if you ordered a urine test or a particular blood test, your patient will get all of the actual specific tests that you ordered, as well as the specific directions. So this includes everything from collection instructions to phlebotomy help to, again, any other details pertinent to that particular test. So literally anything that you could think of as the practitioner that you would need to do for your patient, we take care of that whole piece. So makes it really, really easy from that perspective. And I think, Leslie, you've experienced this and many practitioners have experienced this where, I place the order for the patient and then I have to call the patient and say, okay, you're going to get the kit in X amount of days. Yes. And did you follow the instructions? And no, they forgot to, avoid this food or this supplement before. And then, there's a high probability, obviously, of, false positives or false negatives in those instances. So trying to just minimize all of those little, again, operator error type of issues that one requires a ton of time on the practitioner side to perform. And then obviously it extends that timeline further and further and further out. And right. Again, as you know, if we order a test for a patient, you want to see if you can get the results sooner than later. It doesn't help much if the patient gets the results 6 months later after you order the test. No,
you want to try to consolidate that whole process. So basically what I'm hearing is Rupa takes care of those details, right? Which is amazing. I actually did not know that.
Exactly.
That's a huge thing as well. So pretty much as the practitioner, you go in, you open an account with Rupa, obviously, but you don't have to open accounts with each lab, right? So it's like a one-stop shop. You go through, you pick out your labs for the patient, you click, submit or whatever, and then it sounds like Rupa drop ships the tests, right?
Exactly.
And then emails the patient, reminds them to, get it done. And then it also sounds like Rupa helps in terms of, ensuring, trying to decrease the probability that there's going to be, that they're eating before, doing the test or, taking certain supplements, all those things that tend to crop up.
Absolutely, Leslie. So again, you as the practitioner, we make it very easy. So as mentioned, 24 hours after you place the order, patient gets an email. 48 hours, then we'll send a personalized instructions to the patient. 2 weeks after those kits are sent out, we actually check in with your patient to make sure that if they have any questions, if they have not gotten the test done, again, hey, we're just checking in to make sure that we're following up on the testing there. And then again, you as the practitioner are notified when the test results come in. You can also track the orders on the Rupa Health portal. So it's a really, really awesome feature that we have. So you'll be able to see when the test kit was shipped out, if the order is in process, and then also when the test results are in. As a practitioner, we only share the results with you as the practitioner, so we don't share the results with the patient, as well as we work with you on any of the types of whether you would like to bill the patient yourself or whether we would like to bill you. So we can bill the patient or we can bill you. But if you as the practitioner, add on a interpretation fee or a follow-up fee, you can certainly do that on your end, and we will just bill you as a practitioner, and we won't share any billing details with your patient. There's a lot of practitioners choose to add on certain fees associated with the laboratory tests. It's pretty common. So we have that option as well. So you don't have to eliminate that from your practice at all.
So good. Okay, awesome. So did we answer the question, what makes Rupa unique? Are there any other platforms that offer this?
So I believe there might be one or two other platforms, but I can tell you, Leslie, that obviously this process that we offer is unlike any other platform. Yeah. It's extremely easy to use. And in addition, we offer multiple different types of payment plans. So you can pay with cash, debit, credit, or we have a 3-month interest-free payment plan, which is totally unique to Rupa. Really what makes Rupa the most unique is, again, we have that human element. So when you call Rupa and when you're ordering tests for your patients and wanting to manage this, we have an entire team that manages orders, that will be on calls, so that if you have any questions, if your patients have any questions, we are there to help. We have a very, very high reputation rate with our patients and their practitioners that work with Rupa, so that we, again, obviously want to eliminate any sort of questions. We want to make sure that we are getting back to the practitioner as soon as possible. So that is the big difference, of what Rupa does. So.
Quick question. What if a practitioner has a question about the results? Do you have people because I know a lot of times, you get a test result back and maybe you're not completely sure how to, perhaps interpret a component. Are there folks on staff to help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So you don't need to be I know it's a misconception that maybe a practitioner needs to be an expert to start ordering tests. The good news is one, if you're a practitioner already practicing, you've had the education, you have the background, so you already have the tools, and so which is the great news. And if you don't know something about a marker or even an overall test, there is a lot of resources. So you can certainly call Rupa, and through Rupa, you can make a clinical consult. They are free with the laboratory facility, so that if you don't necessarily know a particular marker or how to interpret an entire test, not to worry. If you know which test that you need for the patient, that is the initial first step, right? You need to know what to order, and then obviously you can learn how to help your patients with the interpretation. What's even better, though, is at Rupa, we try to provide you as much free educational resources as possible. So we have entire live classes with all of our different laboratory companies that we partner with and work with, so that you can learn all about any particular testing, whether that's a particular stool test, a hormone test, a nutrient test. There's lots of obviously different tests out there. So yes, we expand on all of that, so that even if you don't know a particular thing about a test or have multiple different questions, we have resources for you to utilize.
So good. That's huge. Because again, just to reiterate, you guys do not have to be complete experts on all of this in order to get started. I think that's a really super important point. You're going to have support in case you have any questions about your patient's lab results. That's an awesome feature. So I am curious, what is the average amount of time that it takes to order the labs and, that turnaround process? What would you say the average amount of time is?
Yeah, absolutely, Leslie. So this is, again, another humongous feature that makes Rupa Health so unique. I will quite literally, it takes me under 30 seconds to place multiple orders for patients. So if you have, the nice feature on Rupa Health is you can also create your favorites. So if you have favorite labs that you commonly order, you can go in and just click. You have the patient file open and you click submit. You are done at that point in time. Literally don't have to do anything else for your lab order. We take care of everything else on the back end. So it makes it very, very simple as a practitioner. Saves so much time. So quite literally, it can take under 30 seconds. Another really awesome feature that we have now is custom bundles and set bundles. So if you have a patient or multiple patients that commonly come in with thyroid conditions or autoimmune conditions or even more, we have bundles that you can choose so that maybe it's a basic thyroid bundle that you'd like to use for your patients, which might include things like a thyroid panel, a CBC, maybe a stool test, maybe a nutrient or hormone test as well. We also have bundles for things like, again, thyroid, autoimmune, digestive health, men's health, women's health, and even things like metabolic or health, which would be something like a diabetic patient, something like that. So we have a lot of different options to choose from, but ultimately it's very, very, very quick. Again, from the archaic model, I will call it, of what I used to do, of literally call a lab company, then call the patient, then make sure that the patient received the lab kit, just all of those in between steps, which again, took so much time and energy. Now I take a couple buttons, I click a couple things, I'm done. And then I'm able to even track my order. It's so much work and time off of my plate.
Oh my gosh. Not to mention the blood draw, right? Like having that part taken care of is amazing too.
Absolutely.
So how would you say this impacts the compliance and just that overall patient experience?
We know that the patient experience is so important, right? Most of these patients are, again, coming from that traditional model where they may have, as a functional medicine or integrative medicine or holistic practitioner, again, many patients have gone through multiple rounds of practitioners and doctors before they come to you. And so with that comes a lot of times poor experiences, a lot of doctor visits, not just poor experiences with their providers, but obviously with phlebotomy and testing as a whole. And so we obviously want to mitigate that. We want to minimize that. And we want to give these patients the best experience possible, from obviously not just a lab draw experience from the phlebotomist so that they don't have to go back time and time again to get the lab drawn, but also from just a perspective of their labs are getting processed in timely fashion, the patient's getting the order, the patient understands the instructions. And so it's just very smooth for the patient so that the patient comes back to you as a practitioner. They are impressed that you have everything together, that you're using, a service that is just very streamlined for them so that the patient doesn't have to contact the provider saying, what do I have to do here? What do I have to do with XYZ part of the process? So try to make it really, really smooth in that sense. So patient experience obviously is the front and center of what we want to do here, because the patient is obviously who is working with you and who's going to give you the best review and who's going to refer you to their other patients. So we try to make that as smooth as possible. And from a compliance aspect as well, the fact that Rupa Health really takes all of these pieces in the back end, we're following up with your patient, we're checking in with them, we're making sure that they have all of the instructions and all of these little pieces of the puzzle in one easy to find place. It just makes patient compliance much better so that, again, you're getting the best result on the test. You're mitigating any of those potential false negatives or false positives, and just, again, making the overall process just very smooth for your patient.
I love that. How would you say, how does this increase, the profitability in a practice as well as just the overall efficiency? Can you comment on that?
Absolutely, Leslie. Obviously, as a practitioner, you know that time is money, right? We want to help our patients, but at the end of the day, you have to continue to run a business. And so if you're able to streamline things like, again, laboratory ordering, which as we discussed, this literally can take hours and hours and hours on a weekly basis for just one patient. As you start to grow your business and you get a lot of patients, it's very time consuming. And whether you are doing it as a practitioner or you're having a office manager or an administrative assistant doing this, you're still paying them to do this. So because Rupa Health, we have that just flat 7% service fee, it's significantly less to order there than to be paying somebody on an hourly or a yearly basis to do a lot of that other back end work. And again, it just really impacts your practice so that this is one less thing that you have to spend time and money on, where you can focus on other parts of your practice. You can spend more time with your patients if you choose to. You can spend more time on getting more patients in the door, more marketing, whatever it might be. So that, again, just really streamlining that entire process for you as a practitioner.
I love that. So important. And oh my gosh, yes, time is definitely money. I mean, at the end of the day, of course, our knowledge is a critical piece of the puzzle, but our time is truly one of the most important assets that we bring to the business. So love that. So as we start to kind of wrap things up, what would you say, what's one piece of advice you wish everyone would take?
I think that's a great question, Leslie. I think that when it comes down to laboratory testing, we know that it's much better to test your patient than to guess, right? We want to know what's going on with our patients. It's so important that, we're able to get that raw data. And we're so lucky that we live in this day and age where we can have these types of laboratory tests just at our fingertips, that we can get so much really, really important and relevant data to a particular patient that, this wasn't available hundreds of years ago, 100 years ago. We have just technology has grown. And so with that, again, I don't have x-ray vision. I can't know what a patient is dealing with that internally without running laboratory testing. And so I think it's just always best to, if you don't know, it's always better to test. And I'm under the impression that it's better to test more than test less, right? We want as much raw data as possible. Just as if someone, broke their foot, you're not going to just take one view on an x-ray. You're going to take multiple views so you can see multiple angles of that foot to see where that fracture might be or what's going on with the foot. So I take the same approach with laboratory testing. If we have a patient with different types of conditions, it's better to run different types of testing where we can put those pieces together as a whole and then really provide the patient the best treatment and therapy protocols going forth as well. So that's my one piece of advice.
Test, don't guess.
Absolutely.
I love that. So true. And so what would you say, I want to put your link up here so that people can find out more. What's a good next step for our audience? What would you recommend? What does that look like, right? Like if you can share just a little bit about, for people that are interested, like give me a little idea in terms of the process. What comes next?
Absolutely. So again, Rupa Health is free to use for practitioners. There's no membership fee. There's no sign-up fee. There's no monthly fee. There's no hidden costs or anything like that. You come on, you're able to make an account. If you have we use the NPI registry where you're able to pull up your already existing information. But if that is, maybe you moved or you changed some sort of personal information, you can update that and you can start ordering labs as soon as today. It's very, very quick to make an account and start ordering labs for your patients. If you'd like to learn more though, you can click on that link to sign up. And if you want to run on and go on additional free demonstrations for inside of the Rupa Health portal, we offer those as well. I'm actually going to share with you, where should I share this, Leslie? I think. Can
you do a screen share or do you want to put it, let's see here. You know what? How about you put it in the chat and I'll copy it.
Okay. Let's do that. So we have an entire operations team and onboarding team that will help, as well as our head of practitioner partnerships. And his name is Adrian Martinez. And he is the one who will absolutely guide you through a live demo or hand you and help you with our remaining team to get you acquainted more with how Rupa works. Again, maybe creating your favorites, using live, using the customer or bundles, and a number of other facets on rupahealth.com. Just really, really nice features that make your life as a practitioner significantly easier.
I love that. Okay, so we have Adrian's, it looks like that's his email address. Is it
That
right?
is his email. Yes. So feel free to like shoot him an email as well if you would like to set up a one-on-one. But other than that, Rupa Health is so easy. We have a lot of really easy to use instructional videos as well. So if you're wondering any piece of how the entire flow operates, it's all on our website, clearly documented. So all of that support is there. But feel free. He is actually the person that we would want to send any sort of demonstration questions as well as overall questions on the product to him.
Fantastic. Okay, good deal. All right. So, alrighty. So guys, highly recommend. Definitely check out Rupa Health. And yeah, and I would drop Adrian a line. So I think that is going to be super helpful for everyone. So, well, thank you so very much for your time today, Anthony. Really valuable insight, and what a fantastic tool. I really cannot wait to hear feedback from my audience on Rupa Health.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leslie, for having me on. It was a pleasure, and I hope everybody this supports your practice. So
you bet. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.